There you go, Sipple. Says we're live. Welcome in. Husker Extra live, presented, of course, by Tom Dinsdale Automotive Group of Grand Island and Hastings. I'm Parker. There's Steven. It is Thursday evening, so we are here, the Journal Star crew, to talk Huskers, preview Saturday's game against Illinois, and take questions. We'll let the fine folks filter in on both YouTube and Facebook. You guys know the drill. Drop your questions in the comments section, discussion points, questions, airing of grievances, since we're steaming toward Festivus. And we'll get to as many of them as we can. Sipple, what's up? Javon says, what's up? What's up, Javon? Shane says, GBR, what's up? Hello, guys. What do you know?
I'm just working through the day, Parker, thinking about the game.
As always.
There's a lot, when I was picking games too, there's a lot of interesting games this week, as you know, because we have a pick'em contest. And I'm really interested in Iowa, Penn State for obvious reasons.
Yep.
Penn State having been Nebraska's latest conquest.
Yes, quite a conquest. Yes.
Iowa coming up next. Mm-hmm. And that'll be a very tough game, but I think you'll get a good idea. You'll get a good idea of what you're dealing with Iowa when they play Penn State. I think you already have a pretty good idea. But I'm really interested in that game.
Yeah, so am I. And then obviously, there's two big ones standings wise, with Ohio State, Indiana, and Wisconsin Northwestern. So we can get into that a little bit. Jared says,
I got a prediction on those games before we get in here.
All right, let's do it.
They won't be good games.
Yeah,
neither will be good.
Ohio Let me guess. You think the Buckeyes and the Badgers will just steamroll?
Yeah, I don't know if the Badgers will steamroll, but I don't think they'll be pressed much.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I picked them both. I picked Ohio State and Wisconsin. I actually hope that the other two teams, Indiana and Northwestern, make them both interesting, but I'm not convinced that they're going to be that interesting at this point.
Questions?
There's questions in there. Jared, Festivus for the rest of us. That's right. And so, it's crazy how fast we were in sort of neutral there for so long, Sipple. Now we're just ripping right through a football season. Black Friday next week.
I know. It is. I'm trying to enjoy every day.
Yeah, no doubt. Randy has a good one. Over under on Illinois quarterback rush yards, 125.
I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, if it's mostly Brandon Peters, he won't get to 125.
Right.
Parker, do you think they'll sprinkle in Isaiah Williams?
I don't know what to think about that. I sort of think Lovie Smith is sort of an old school dude. I would think that if his starting quarterback is available this week, which he is, that he'd go back to Peters. They sprinkled in, and again, there's a big difference between being a true freshman and a redshirt freshman. I mean, they sprinkled in Juice Williams a little bit last year against Nebraska, but he had 3 carries for -2 or something like that. It wasn't effective use. But I think if Peters gets the call, then you'll see a little bit of juice at least.
Okay, well, I'd say under. I'm going under because I think it'll be. Yeah. I guess you call that a hunch. I think that's correct. I think it'll be mainly Peters, and he's not a bad runner. He's not Isaiah Williams, but he's a decent runner. But I don't think he's capable of getting 125 unless Nebraska just has some colossal breakdowns.
I don't think he's quite the runner that like Peyton Ramsey from Northwestern is for reference, but he's sort of one of those guys that just when you think he's not going to keep it, he does. And he had 16 rushing yards, which sounds pretty modest. It is against Nebraska last year, but I think he had a 10-yard touchdown run. I think he kept on a read and walked into the end zone last year. All right, the questions are starting to come in. Good work, guys. Let me get my mouse in the right place here. Hi from Louisville. Chris, what's up from Louisville? New Illinois quarterback can run, but what's his passing ability? Yeah, well, timely conversation. Juice Williams did not look particularly good throwing the ball last week.
7 for 18. 7 for 18.
Yeah, so we'll see. The quarterback situation is going to be interesting, obviously, depending on which way they go. Any news on Omar? Sean, no, we didn't really hear much about Omar this week. Someone asked me about this on the radio earlier today, and I said the way I think about it at this point is if you can get him on the field and get him feeling comfortable at some point this season, at this rate, I mean, 4 weeks in and 5 to go, you probably count anything that you get this year as a win, which I know that's not what Nebraska fans want to hear, and I know that's not what the expectations certainly were before the season. But at this point, I mean, you're halfway through, and he's been on the field for what, 4 snaps or something like that. So I think if you get him on the field and get his toes wet at all this year, it's probably a win at this point.
So you do not expect to see him tomorrow?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see him. I just think at this point, I just wonder if at this point you're better, if you're a Nebraska fan, are you better off just being interested in the development of Xavier Betts and Marcus Fleming and Alante Brown at this point? And then whenever they feel like they can get Omar on the field, obviously they're going to try to, but it hasn't really happened to this point so far. Javon says, do you think Scott Frost will start trying to stay aggressive the entire game? I'm on pins and needles in the second half of games.
Well, I mean, I would like to think so. I think this is the type of game where if Nebraska would start fast, which they've been doing, right? I mean, fast starts have been a good thing for Nebraska. Now, this would seemingly be the type of game where they could continue to be aggressive and, more aggressive than they were against Penn State. I think Scott felt he had to be a little more tactical against Penn State once they got the lead, because of his respect. He has a lot of respect for Penn State. I'm not saying they don't respect Illinois, but we're not talking about the same thing here. Frost can't say that, but I can. So, yeah, you might see him be a little more aggressive. I think this is a game, Parker, where he's got to get some things going that haven't been going. If Dedrick Mills plays, I would like to see him get 18 to 20 carries.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play, I would like to see them then get experience to those guys that haven't played a lot, Marvin Scott, Ronald Tompkins. Maybe you see Sevion Morrison. Do you think we'll see Sevion Morrison?
I think it's possible. I mean, he's been coming back from an injury situation, but I think they'd like to get him in and see what he's got at some point. It's been pretty open to this point. And so I think that you have a good chance of seeing either Sevion Morrison or Ramir Johnson at some point over the course of this game. They got to find some, Dedrick Mills and Marvin Scott have both done a nice job, and I think they're happy with what they've got from Marvin Scott. But they need a guy that can threaten to be a home run hitter in the backfield too. And Dedrick Mills at full speed can do that. I mean, he can rip off a long one. But I just wonder if they find some carries for a guy that's a little bit more of a speed back.
Yeah, I think that they have to be careful with low expectations.
Sure.
I mean, Marvin Scott, you'd like to see Marvin Scott get in there and rip off a 20-yard run.
Absolutely.
And them not be happy with 3 of carry. If Nebraska is going to get to where Nebraska wants to be, the expectation level, my sense is it has to rise a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd say about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I asked Frost specifically this morning about production from the running back spot. And he said, he just said we have to create more big plays in the pass game and in the run game. And when it comes to the run game, I think it's a myriad of factors. I mean, they got to block a little bit better. They got to get to the second level a little bit better. And the running backs have to, be in the right place at the right time. And at some point you got to make someone miss too. I think that's another part of the equation.
Okay, so. Parker, I think you're right. But I think there's an important part of the discussion that you have to include. And that is with no downfield threat, or at least no downfield passing game to speak of most of this season. The running backs face a pretty difficult situation when defenses are bunched towards the line of scrimmage. And what I saw was not much running room on the second level because of that last week.
Yeah.
There's a couple times that Wandale got to the second level, but there was a bunch of guys there. mean, and there's an obvious reason for that.
If you're a Big Ten defense and you're playing 8 in the box, it doesn't matter. I mean, you saw, Wisconsin week 1 against Illinois, they dominated and they shredded Illinois' defense, but they weren't ripping off big runs either for most of that game with their running backs because Illinois was thinking, hey, here's a quarterback making his first career start. Let's play 8 in the box and make sometimes 9 in the box against Wisconsin, and let's make them beat us in the passing game. Graham Mertz did that. Wisconsin's receivers did that, and they rolled it up because of it. But they're going to have to, it's a long way of circling back to Javon's question here about being aggressive. I think they're going to have to be. And to me, like, unless you're desperate late in a game, I typically equate aggressiveness with trust in your players. And Frost said after the game on Saturday that he wanted to run the ball in the red zone because of the 2 interceptions in the end zone against Northwestern. And they took the foot off the gas a little bit in the second half. And to me, that just – at some point, that's like you're trying to get out of there with a win, preserve a win, rather than going and stomping somebody. So we'll see. I think people should stop talking about Omar Manning. Matt, I'm all for it at this point.
I get that sense.
It's a compelling story. He's a compelling story if they can get him on the field. We just haven't seen them get him on the field. A couple questions about Adrian Sipple. Both are, do you think that okay, 2 good questions. Do you think we'll see Adrian Martinez get playing time this week?
Well, as I don't know, I think you or Chris Basnet mentioned it. He's been good against Illinois. He was excellent against Illinois last year. I think he was
443 yards of offense, pretty good.
443 last year? Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I think so, but I thought that last week. I mean, it's hard to know for sure, but there's a common sense element to this. They're looking for offense. Adrian has been their best runner. Right. I think it makes sense to try to get him carries in some form. I'm always very intrigued by the thought of him playing running back. I don't think that's realistic. Because he has to take handoffs. He has to learn how to take handoffs. He has to learn how to pass block. They have a bunch of young running backs, and I don't know about you, Parker, but I don't think it would be real smart to take reps away from those young guys right now. So
not only that, but then you're taking quarterback reps away from Martinez too, who clearly is still trying to develop at that position, and who, by the way, you might need at quarterback at some point this year too.
Yeah. I'm out on that discussion, but I do think you could see him in some role other than quarterback.
Yeah, I think I'd be. I guess I said this last week. I'd say it again. I'll be a little surprised if he doesn't play. I was surprised he didn't play at all last week. I'd be surprised again if he didn't play at all this week. Jack has a good. So here's another Martinez question for you. He said, well, sort of in the same vein. Jack on YouTube asked, do you think that Martinez could start and play most of the game against Iowa because he's got a better arm? Haven't seen much from McCaffrey in the passing category.
Well, you know what? I agree that McCaffrey hasn't shown a lot as a passer. But I think if you're going with McCaffrey, you go with McCaffrey. I don't know if you move back and forth depending on the situation. It's not out of the question, but I don't think Parker, you listen to Frost. I listen to Frost. I don't think Frost is of that mind. I think he wants. Yeah. I think he would prefer to settle on a guy, and I think the staff probably hopes McCaffrey takes a step forward. You know what, Parker? I do. I mean, it's not just. I mean, it's not uneducated discussion here. I think that they want McCaffrey to take a step forward and solidify that position.
Yeah,
but he has to do it. I mean, right. And that's what we're looking. That's one of the things we're looking for in this game.
So the thing I wonder about, and this is really more just in the mind of the head coach more than anything else, but the thing I wonder about is, does the fact that he made the change from Martinez to McCaffrey, like now, does he feel like, okay, I made the change and that's it? Like, not that's it, but we're going to give McCaffrey every chance to play out the season and see what he can do? Or are you of the mindset that you are trying to do whatever you can to win the next game in front of you? And if that's the case, does the fact that he made the change in the middle of a game against Northwestern actually empower the idea that if one thing's not working one week, maybe you try the other within the game. I don't know. It'll be interesting to find out.
I think it's dependent on performance. I mean, I think if there's a decision to be made in that regard, it's probably because McCaffrey hasn't performed to expectations.
Yep.
If he performs like they want him to, I think he'll keep the job. And I mean, I don't know. I don't like to. It's hard, the way you frame up discussions is everybody frames them up the way they want them. I don't want to frame this up like, does McCaffrey have a long leash or a short leash or a medium leash? I just prefer to keep it at performance. If he performs well, he'll still be the starting quarterback indefinitely.
Gil says, yeah, that makes sense. Gil says, Go Big Red from Washington, D.C., have a cinnamon roll and some chili for me. Well, Gil, it's 70 to 75 degrees here today, so no chili needed. Any word on Mills? Sounds like he was beat up from the Northwestern game. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Gil says Wandale at running back seemed to confuse the receiver packages. Yeah, it did. It seemed like they were struggling to walk the balance of having the right personnel in the game a bunch of times. And it was most of the time it was a receiver when Wandale was in the backfield. So, yeah, totally agree with you there. Don't know about Mills. He was on the sideline. He had his helmet the whole game after he was out in the first drive. He had a sleeve on his right knee, which he did not start the game with. So I don't know for sure if that's what the issue is or not, but that's what it looked like.
Well, as you pointed out, Parker, in the press box, he was limping.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a noticeable limp. Diedrich strikes me as the type that will play through about anything. So wouldn't be surprised at all if he's back there Saturday.
Yep. I tend to agree with you. Jared, are we going to see the Iowa-Michigan transfer receiver this game? Yeah, you're talking about Oliver Martin, who was eligible last week and suited up for the first time. I don't know, though, Jared, because Frost made a good point, which is that the guy wasn't eligible until the lead up to last week, so he didn't get any reps with the top group. I mean, he was a scout teamer because they didn't know if he was going to be eligible or not. So 10 days later to be running in the top two groups, I doubt it. Maybe they get him some time later in the year, but I would think that that'd be a pretty steep hill to climb in the middle of the season. Dan says, I asked about Ramir Johnson last week, and all of a sudden Scott mentions Ramir. Yeah, another guy that's interesting. I think maybe Ryan Held's on the radio in a little while, so maybe we'll get an update about where Ramir is at in the pecking order, but I'm sort of surprised we've seen none of him so far this season.
Even in a return game, right?
I wonder, he might have been back there once against Ohio State. I don't remember for sure. Maybe he was, but I don't know if they've had a real true kick return. I don't think Alante Brown's touched a kick return so far this year. So, will we pass to spread the defense out so our running backs can get loose? Yeah, Javon, I know you asked that a few minutes ago. That's the idea. Any word about Savion Morrison getting close to playing time? Yeah, Matt mentioned it earlier. Possibly. Definitely seems to be getting closer to being healthy. Ty Robinson seems to be the real deal, Neil says. Real deal, Neil. Any consequence for the Penn State lineman from jumping on a down guy or just a flag?
Just a flag, I think.
Yeah.
Robinson is interestingly, Robinson did not get a black shirt, but Robinson.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Oh, I thought I read your story. I thought the three linemen that got it were Stilley. Oh, no, you're right. He did. I'm sorry. I had to read it twice. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Confusion. Damian Daniels, Vin Stilley, and Ty Robinson got the black shirts up front. Robinson looks like a foundation player to me. It looks like he'll be a big foundation for the program going forward. He played 57 snaps. He played 57 snaps against Penn State. They obviously trust him. He played against a veteran line, 57 snaps. The only guy that played more was Stilley, who played 58. So, yeah, they obviously trust Ty Robinson at a high level already.
Neil, one follow-up. I don't know. I'd be interested to know if James Franklin got asked about this week. I haven't seen it, but it was 69 that had that play on DeAndre Thomas, and then he got a personal foul later in that drive. And someone said to me that something happened against Maryland the week before. I didn't see him in the game in the second half. When I watched the game back on Sunday,
okay.
I didn't see him in the game. So I wonder if I think Penn State might have benched him after that drive. I think. I'm not sure about that, but I think that might be the case. Does Scott start using Xavier Betts as a deep threat? You would think so.
Yeah. I mean, I think within the program, they have talked now about the need to at least try it downfield. Now, it's easier said than done. There has to be protection. I mean, sometimes we talk about it like it's a sandlot game where the quarterback just drops back and heaves it.
Yeah, heaves it deep, yeah.
It's a little more. It doesn't have to be too involved of a discussion, but it's a little more than that. I mean, there's pass rushers, coverage. You want to do it at the right time with the right guys. So, but I think it's imperative, Parker, that they at least take shots once a quarter.
Yep.
At least once a quarter.
Yeah.
And I do think you'll see that. I do think you'll see that going forward. And
shots can come in different forms, right? I mean, like that fly sweep to Xavier Betts, like, well, we're sitting in the press box, and what did I tell you right before that snap? I said, I think you got a shot play to 15 here, and it wasn't a shot play in the sense of like they pitched it forward 1 yard, but that's a designed to be a big play.
Yes.
So
good blocking on that play, by the way,
including from Marvin Scott and Jack Stoll, who was back from a knee injury, and that was one of his 4 snaps. That's making the most of your limited time in action.
So yeah, you'd say Stoll got a good block on that. And Marvin Scott, and what number
Travis Vokalek was the downfield guy.
83?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 83 got a good block. That's Vokalek. He did. He got a good block. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was a nice blocking design too. All 3 guys sort of fanned out that way, and Scott turned back inside, arc blocked and turned back inside on the outside linebacker, and Stoll kicked out, and Vokalek was down the field, and yeah, it looked really nice. It's funny when teams create space like that, the game looks so easy. And then other times it's just like you're ramming it into a wall. It's really weird.
Yeah, that's true. Big Ten, now here's the thing though, Parker, and we've talked about this ourselves, but it might begin to look a little different now for Nebraska because it's played 3 really good defenses.
It's true.
We have to keep that in mind. Northwestern is ranked 11th in total defense.
Yeah.
They have a really good defense. Ohio State, we know, is excellent, right? And what did Sean Beckton say this week?
Penn State's
front seven. Yeah, that Penn State's front 7 was better athletically than Ohio State's. He said it very definitively. So you're not going to see that this week. And now I don't know. You seem to know a little bit more about Iowa than I do, but I think Iowa's playing pretty good defense.
Iowa's front 7 is legit.
Is it?
Yeah, their defensive line, and it's not like they don't have a guy who's maybe a top 10 pick like
Espinoza.
Epinesa, but they got some guys. Golson's really good.
Golston's good. Yeah, Golston's good.
They've got a guy. Nebraska fans might remember him. One of their interior guys, Jack Helfin, is a Northern Illinois transfer, and he gave Nebraska problems 2 years ago at Northern Illinois. So he's a big body inside. And then Vandenberg is a good player. So they've got pretty legit on the D line. I mean, they're not. I don't think it's like Ohio State's last year or anything like that, but that's a good front 7. It'll be a big test, and so we'll see what it looks like this weekend. Brian says, I think we need to be careful with Wandell at running back. We don't need him hurt again. That's definitely a consideration because he runs with abandon, man. He'll get smacked and get right back up again.
Parker, it's sort of confounding too because I'm with that sentiment. I agree with that sentiment, but he looks good at running back.
I know he does. He looks, yeah. And you asked him about it, I think, right, Sipple? And he said, well, yeah, I played running back my whole life.
You can tell. He's got good instincts at that position. So I totally understand why the coaches might say, let's put him there,
It's kind of funny. Football is such a fickle game. Like anything can go wrong on any play. And like when you talk about like the complete lack of big plays, like it's true, 100% it's true. And they definitely have limitations on offense. But like think about 2 of the plays they had set up perfectly. I mean, they had Austin Allen on a wheel route. and they give up a pressure, and McCaffrey gets flattened, and the ball goes straight up in the air and gets intercepted. And then Wan'Dale Robinson's probably sees green all the way to the end zone and gets dragged down by a rogue arm by his face mask. And you get 15 yards out of that, but he thought he was home free. You could tell by the way he popped up. So it's a lot of stuff can go right. A lot of stuff can go wrong. Let's see here. Justin says, it seems like the center has the yips again. It's that basic stuff. Hello from Kansas City.
Hello from Kansas City. What a beautiful city. I wonder if that person goes to the Town Topic, which was one of my favorite eateries in the Big 12. It's a little cafe in downtown. The Town Topic. It's about the size of my office, Parker, legitimately. But
Nice.
What was the question again? Oh, the yips. Juergens was interesting. Juergens is he has a very appealing personality. He says sometimes he just gets excited, and I don't think it's it might be a technical issue as the result of excitement, but he says I get a little excited. He made a good analogy. He said it's got to be like an extra point where you take it for granted. You should be able to take for granted that the snap is going to be in the strike zone. Unfortunately, we haven't really been able to do that. A lot of people will be watching that this week.
No doubt. Justin, do you have a review? I'm interested with Justin if he knows about Ponax, which is a Mexican restaurant in Kansas City. Whenever I make it down there, I tend to go for barbecue, but
what's the place called?
Ponax, Ponaks. I tweeted a photo or a insight about some barbecue last time I was down there, and Nebraska assistant coach who is intimately familiar with Kansas City told me you got to go to Ponax because that's the best Mexican food in Kansas City.
Ooh,
so we'll have to try it if we ever find ourselves there. So
we'll file that away if Nebraska gets back in the Big 12.
Rodrigo's in the house from Chile. What's up, Rodrigo? Appreciate you as always. Do you know if Dedrick Mills is okay? Yeah, I know we're way behind on the questions here. We'll see. Omar Manning, Jordan Stevenson, same kind of deal, Randy asks.
Jordan Stevenson came in with a belly, like a legitimate belly.
Yeah.
I don't think Omar Manning did. I don't think it's the same type of thing.
Javon, thank you for the kind words. Caleb says, sup, fellas, do you think the quarterback run will be difficult to defend if they go with the backup or Peters?
Yes.
I thought it was, it's a challenge, but I don't think it's an insurmountable challenge. I thought Ben Stilley was interesting talking about quarterback run, sort of the most difficult thing to defend as it is, because depending on the numbers, if you get a running back in the blocking scheme, you've got an extra guy and all that. So yeah, it's always a challenge, but
Parker, it's easier if the guy can't pass though. And Williams is about my size, 5'8", and he doesn't have a great arm.
Half a step faster.
Yeah, he's a little faster unless I'm running from a dog.
Sean says, Sip, who's better, Martinez or Pastorini?
That's a reference to my radio show, our radio show. Pastorini was good. Now, keep in mind, Dan Pastorini was the third pick overall out of Santa Clara. Pastorini, third pick overall. By the way, Pastorini has a Super Bowl ring, too. I'd say Dan Pastorini by a long ways right now.
Sergeant Red says, what makes the rules of this offense so hard to understand for young players to play quickly? Sounds like the lead to your column, Sipple.
Well, I don't know. The one thing that Austin Allen made pretty clear is that it's not like Frost is dialing things back. In fact, it seems like in year 3, Frost has sort of expanded the scope of the offense. I thought Austin Allen was really interesting in saying that oftentimes on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, he's a little lost. By Thursday, after watching film and gaining a better understanding of the opponent, it begins to clarify. It begins to crystallize in his mind what they're trying to do. But he said, absolutely, if I was a young player, he could see why it's difficult for those guys, because it's sort of difficult for him, and he's a junior. Now, I mean, Frost, I think, expects a lot of his guys. As Dan Hawkins said, famously, Parker, what did he say? Remember Dan Hawkins? This ain't intramurals. This ain't intramurals. Yeah, this ain't intramurals. And Frost asked a lot of those guys. He asked them to know a lot. And I mean, I don't anticipate that he'll dial it back anytime soon. I don't think you can in this league.
Yeah.
If you're
simplified in the Big Ten, defense is old.
Yeah, it's too good of a coaching league.
A couple quick ones, and then we got to get out of here. There's other stuff going on tonight too. Does a lack of playing time for a few of the returning receivers say more about their talent or how talented the staff believes the new group are? Leslie, I think probably it's some of both.
I think those guys are talented, Parker.
Yeah.
I think that they're freshmen, and I think they're in a tough league, and I think they didn't get a run up to the season. They didn't get the non-conference games, and I think it's difficult. But I mean, just the glimpses we've gotten. For instance, Marcus Fleming against Northwestern, Xavier Betts the last 2 games, and I love the way Alante Brown looks. And I think it's just a matter of time before those guys really begin to show up. And they've already showed up a little bit. I just think slowly but surely, and maybe it'll happen in a flourish with 1 or 2 of them, you'll start to see them. They're good.
Yeah. Demarion Houston got a shout out from Cam Taylor-Britt after the game that he played Jahan Dotson in practice for the scout team. But, neither Demarion Houston or Jamie Nance were even suited up among the 90 players that Nebraska had in pads on Saturday, and like a redshirt freshman, or excuse me, a true freshman walk-on receiver, Barron Miles Jr., was in uniform. So I don't know. Obviously, those 2 guys in particular, Nance and Houston, are on the scout team at this point, and that's just where they are at this point. Dan says Austin Allen earlier this week said he tells the quarterbacks all the time to throw it up so he can use his frame. Unfortunately, that's what Adrian did in the Northwestern game, and he didn't go get it. Adrian lost the starting job. Yeah, Dan, I actually thought about that when Austin said that on Tuesday, but it doesn't change what happened, of course. But I actually thought Austin, after the game, said he put it on himself. I thought it was a really bad decision by Adrian to throw that ball, but Allen said, no, I got to go get that ball. And I think hearing him say what he said this week, I thought, oh, well, he actually wants that ball thrown, and he feels like it's his job to go get it. 2 more. Sipple, what are the odds Nebraska, Jack asks, goes 3-1 in the final stretch?
I mean, if you just break it down, they really should win this game. Iowa's going to be really tough. There's no way I could pick Nebraska to go there right now and win. Purdue looks like a toss-up, and I like them against Minnesota. So I think the chances are decent. They're decent.
Yeah, I think they've got a chance to. But obviously, that would be incumbent on winning this weekend. Yes. Penn State ran 91 plays. Don't you think that the time in the weight room was crucial and the development in the weight room was crucial to that happening? Yeah, for sure, Roger. I mean, put it this way. They played 91 snaps, and when they needed it on snaps 90 and 91, they got pressure on the quarterback both snaps. And that's pretty impressive.
They did. Oh, yeah, the defense, I mean, on one hand, giving up 500 yards isn't great. They couldn't get off the field. I get that. But they bowed up when they had to. And they made a lot of plays in that game, too.
Justin says Ponkus is good, but Margaritas on the Boulevard is the best. You don't got to convince Sipple to go to a place called Margaritas on the Boulevard.
Thank you for the tip. I appreciate that.
Adrian's pregame pep talk was awesome. Brian, it was, gives you an idea of the kind of guy he is, which, we get to see in glimpses all the time or sometimes, but not like that. So, yeah.
All right, Parker.
We'll call it there. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Another good showing. Javon says he'd rather catch COVID than see Nebraska lose to Iowa again. Javon?
Easy on that.
We steer clear of both. Maybe that would be the best. That's all for tonight. Thank you to Tom Dinsdale Automotive Group in Grand Island and Hastings for sponsoring this Husker Extra Live. We'll have video up before the game on Saturday. After the game on Saturday, we'll be back to take your questions. We've got all kinds of content on huskerextra.com right now, so go check that out. You can subscribe to these videos on Facebook or YouTube. Thanks for watching.